good morning. Good to be with you again today. This may not be the best spot. I've got a bunch of buses coming by right now, but hopefully you can hear what I'm saying. Continuing to build on the four pillars of a healthy Christian businessman, healthy Christian business leader, healthy relationships, biblical financial values, biblical spirituality, and balanced living. And this week we've been focusing on the pillar number 2, which is biblical financial values. And the topic has been saving for a rainy day. And on Monday we talked about why save for a rainy day. We talked about the rationale behind that, and how sometimes Christians want to have this idea that, you know what, we just need to trust God and not worry about the rainy day. Then on Tuesday we talked about the good years and the bad years, and that was the story of Joseph standing before Pharaoh and telling Pharaoh that he needs to store food during the good years so that they have it for the bad years. The wise and the fool, of course, that was Solomon and his way with words. And then yesterday we talked about doesn't saving for a rainy day contradict Jesus' teaching in Matthew chapter 6, which says that we simply are to trust God. So today I just want to finish off the week with talking about balancing saving for a rainy day. So balancing that with, again, the scriptures that we talked about yesterday, and then there's a few more here, again, back in Matthew 6, but also in Luke chapter 12. So there are verses about not saving. And a lot of times Christians will kind of focus on those verses. And so it says, Jesus is speaking in Luke chapter 12, verse 24, "Consider the ravens. They do not sow or reap. They have no storeroom or barn, yet God feeds them. And how much more valuable are you than birds?" And then in Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 and 21, "Do not store up for yourself treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourself treasures in heaven, where moth and rust do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." And we kind of touched on that one a bit yesterday. But then there are verses that talk about saving and putting money aside. For instance, Proverbs 13, verse 11 says, "Dishonest money dwindles away, but he who gathers money little by little makes it grow." Proverbs 21, verse 20, we talked about this a couple days back. In the house of the wise are stores of choice food and oil, but a foolish man devours all he has. And then in 13 verse 21, "A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous." So, save or not save? Prepare for that rainy day or not prepare for that rainy day? What should we do? On the one hand, we have Proverbs, and that very clearly tell us that we should, and then we have Jesus speaking in Matthew. And so some have said, well, see, there's a contradiction. And as we talked about yesterday, it might appear as a contradiction to start off with, but in reality, it's not a contradiction. What Jesus was talking about was something quite different than the idea of just saving for a rainy day. Well, for those who know me, they know that I always and balance is key when it comes to seeking to live in obedience to God's word. Understand it and live in balance to it. We are to trust the Lord, knowing that all the savings in the world will not keep us secure. You can have all kinds of money stored away. You can have all kinds of investments. And the reality is, all of a sudden, those investments can just melt away like the snow in spring. All of a sudden, it looks like, spring's never coming, and then all of a sudden we get a nice hot day and the snow just disappears. Well, the same is true with our investments. The same is true with the money that we save. We can save it if we put our trust in that. If that's where our trust is, we're on dangerous grounds, because it will just fade away. That, again, does not mean that we should not be wise with our money. And that's the balance here. It doesn't mean we should not be wise with the money and put some away for a rainy day. It just means don't lose your mind if your rainy day fund is depleted. Don't you lose your mind. God is still God. Have your trust in Him. Yes, save for the rainy day. Yes, put money aside. Yes, make sure that you are doing that kind of stuff. But don't put your trust in that. And really, that's the balance. On the one hand, we save for the rainy day because that is wise. That is smart. That is what we ought to be doing. We ought to be keeping and having an inheritance for our children's children. But on the other hand, we can't put our trust in that as if that is going to keep us secure. Because the reality is, all of it could just disappear overnight, gone. So today, as you go about your day, consider the ravens and leave an inheritance for your children's children. May we trust God and be wise with our money. May the Lord bless you. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you again next week.